Okay, hi everyone. It's Stephanie from Lumeria Star, and today we're going to just take a look at the decks I used in April for my Lumeria Star Tarot edit over on Instagram. We're just going to take a look at what decks worked, what decks maybe didn't, or maybe which ones I was drawn to and which ones I was not. And yeah, we're just going to go from there. So, first of all, let's just address my nails. This is apparently a new look where the polish on my pointer fingers and my thumbs always kind of chips and peels off first. So this is a look that we are going with today until I have some time to get this done. So that's where we're at with that. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. This is a blood orange tea that I picked up from Trader Joe's, and it's really yummy. So that is delightful. All right, so let's just take a look at the decks I used in April, and it's a time to reflect on them. So the first deck I have here is my pastel Rider Waite. This deck is just such a joy and a gem for me. I just stumbled upon this. I think it was last year on makeplayingcards.com. And essentially all it is the Rider Waite Smith with, Pixie's original artwork, but it's just recolored with beautiful pastel colors. And it's so weird how color affects me so much, because the regular Rider Waite Smith, I do have the Centennial edition for study purposes, but it just doesn't really do anything for me. I never pick it up to use it unless I'm doing a workshop or maybe I'm studying. But even then, I just don't care for those colors. But you take it and you reimagine it in just pastels, and I'm obsessed. I love this deck. So I like to kind of take this out every spring. Pastels always remind me of springtime. I also really like too that the creator, and if I can find the creator, I will link it down below in the video, but it is from Make Playing Cards by someone. I don't remember their name off the top of my head. I like how not only did they recolorize the pastels, but they also included people of color. So that makes this deck feel more inclusive when I use it for readings with others. So the original Rider Waite Smith is essentially all white people. And now we have different skin tones. Look how pretty this is with the pastel. We have different skin tones. Now, granted, some of them are purple, but I'm digging it, and we've got how great is that? Interracial, couple for the Two of Cups. Love that. Yeah, it's just the pretty pastels for me. And the fact that they've included diversity, it just makes this deck, which normally didn't feel super accessible to me, it made the world of difference. So this deck is just such a fun find, and I love it. So this is something I do take out every spring, and it kind of just reminds me of Easter colors or an Easter egg. So yeah, this is a great one. It did just come, and these are the backs too, which have the death flower, which I like. It did just come in this plain white tuck box. I have yet to find a bag for it. That's still on my to-do list, but 2 years later and I still don't have one. So it just kind of stays in this box. But pastel Rider Waite, absolutely love. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of my tea. Okay, the next deck that I used for April, and this was probably one of my absolute favorites, is the Tarot Decarlotides. And this is a Fournier deck, so it is one of those kind of smaller sizes. It's a little bit smaller than regular tarot size, which I enjoy because I have smaller hands. Just look at the inside of this box. I love this black floral print. All right, so there's an extra card there and a white book that I really haven't used at all. So I just love this deck. First of all, again, the print of the back is amazing. Like I want this with the black and the florals and the moon. Like I want this as like a wallpaper for like an accent wall in my home, or like I could see that in my office. Like that's so, it's so me. This aesthetic is so me, I feel like. So basically this deck is really, it's fun and it's whimsical because it kind of just like goes its own way. I feel like the art references are kind of all over the place, which you would think it doesn't work, but it weirdly does. Like this 10 of cups, like it's vodka and caviar and oysters. Like that to me is such a 10 of cups kind of moment. I just love the art style. Like, okay, so we have like David Bowie here for the Magician. That is just, ugh, I love this card. I'm a huge Bowie fan. Let me move this out of the way. The artwork is just, it's whimsical, it's fun, it's beautiful. I love this death card. Like, look at that. We've got diversity in here, and it's just interesting. There's like some fairy tale vibes, there's some vintagey vibes. I think there's more cultural references in here that maybe I even recognize. There's a lot of pagan vibes. Like this reminds me of like the Wicker Man. There's just so much in here. Who is that? That's a king, right? That's a famous king. I don't know which one that is. This world card, beautiful with the flowers. Absolutely beautiful. I think that's a cultural reference too. This sun card, oh my gosh. This is very like, what does this remind me of? Like the goddess Ocean. I don't know if that's who that's supposed to be. Yeah, this deck is just great. It's got like a folksy kind of art vibe to it as well. Like I said, it's kind of all over the place with its imagery, but in this really strange way, it just works. At least for me, it just works. And I think this is quickly becoming a favorite of mine. It just feels like a me deck, if that makes sense. Like, you know, when you find a deck, look how pretty this moon card is. Like, you know, when you find a deck and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is my aesthetic. This feels like my aesthetic in a deck. It's like feminine, but also quirky and strange. Like, I love her. It's pagan, it's fairy tales. It's just like a little bit of everything wrapped into one. And there's also, where is that card? My Queen of Wands card. Like this is also super pagan, also reminds me of the Wicker Man. This is like the Princess and the Pea. Like the references again are all over the place. Oh, here it is, the Queen of Wands, which is like one of my significator cards. And it's, you know, reference to the horror film like Midsummer, and that movie has a lot of like personal reference for me. So I just adore this card. I'm just obsessed with this deck, and you know, I used it for the month of April. I'm going to put it away. However, if you guys saw on my stories on Instagram, I did just receive the book in the mail from the artist, Carlotta. What's her name? Does it say on here? I want to say her name is Carlotta DeSantos. Wait, let me take a look now. Why doesn't it say it on the box? Okay, I can't think of the name, but the artist and creator of this deck, she actually reached out to me and she created basically like an astrology book with, you know, obviously all of the same art style. And I just got it in the mail, and I'm gonna do probably a video review of it and then do like a full deep dive study, and I'm gonna use this deck along with it. So that's gonna be a nice way to continue using this deck, even though it's not gonna be in like, you know, my May tarot edit or anything like that. But this one was such a joy. This was such a win for me, and it's a Fournier deck, so it's mass market. So it's like pretty affordable, and yeah, this was such a win. Highly, highly, highly suggest if you're even drawn to this art style. So this deck was a win for me. The next deck I use is an old favorite. This is my Antique Anatomy Tarot Ephemera edition. So this is the indie version. So this deck is always in my top 10s. This deck is just so special to me. This is another one that kind of earlier in my tarot practice, I bonded with this deck and really not even realizing it was a pip deck, but this deck really helped me kind of push me out of my comfort zone with tarot, and I kind of had to look deeper in the meanings. So, you know, I really bonded with this deck actually on a trip to Salem. Oh my gosh, was that like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago at this point? And yeah, we really bonded. So that's kind of like a nice memory. And on that trip is also when I started my Instagram account, Lumeria Star. I was just really, I felt really called to just like document my daily pulls, and I was using Instagram as my online journal. That's kind of that's why I started the account. And then it kind of took a life of its own, and people started following, and it was completely anonymous. I didn't have my name on there, my face on there. It was just like mine. And this deck was the deck that kind of inspired me to do that. So I will always feel very, very drawn to this deck. And it's a beautiful one for, I think, year round. Like the botanicals and the flowers make it feel really relevant for springtime, which is why I pulled it out for April. But it's also a really great deck for fall, for Samhain, for Halloween, for just fall in general. To me, it's just a great all-arounder deck. So this will always be in my top. And this was a lovely deck to bring out for April. So I will probably never be not happy using this deck. I think it's just one of those decks that will always be a top favorite for me. So that is the Antique Anatomy Tarot Ephemera Edition. This is the indie version, and this is by Claire Goodchild. All right, so let's take a sip of tea. Okay, so let's do this next deck. I didn't really use this much. I wasn't really drawn to reach for it in the month of April, but I did include it in my tarot edit. I thought it would pair nicely with the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle, but I didn't use it that much. But this is, everyone knows this deck. This is Pagan Otherworlds. I really, really love this artwork. You know, as the name implies, it has a very pagan energy. Ooh, excuse me, I had to sneeze. This has a very pagan energy. It also has a very like biblical energy at the same time for me, which I think sometimes is a little confusing because I think of pagan as like the opposite of like kind of like biblical references, but I do see a lot of references to what reminds me of the church growing up. I grew up Catholic. But anyway, like here, like this is obviously Adam and Eve. And they have the moon cards. So this is a favorite, but you know, unfortunately, I am one of those people who do not love the linen cardstock because it is so slippery in my hands. And whenever I shuffle this deck, it definitely gets away from me. This is typically a deck that I end up doing like a 78 card pickup because it just flies all over the place. So that is a big reason why I tend to not grab this deck. And also it's a little bit longer in length compared to a standard tarot. And again, I have small hands, so it's just hard to grasp. I thought about trimming it, but you know, there's titles and there's numbers, so I don't know. I would love if UC or UC, however you pronounce it, I would love if they created this deck borderless, and if they switched it to like a matte cardstock, I would use this all the time. That's how much I love the artwork, but it's the tactile experience that prevents me from grabbing it, and that makes me sad because the artwork is just amazing. So let me know down below if you also have this problem, because I know this deck is such a favorite of people, and rightfully so, because it's stunning, it's gorgeous, it's such a classic, and I just don't use it because of the tactile experience. So, you know, Usi, if you happen to see this video, like, look how beautiful the Queen of Pentacles is. If you make this standard tarot size, borderless, and matte, I will use the hell out of this deck. It's the actual experience for me that's preventing me from using it, and you know, more than I want to. So that is the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. I can get this back in the box. So definitely a favorite of most people, and I just wasn't really drawn to use it, even though I chose to use it for April. All right, a couple more. So this one I was really, really excited about. This is a new Oracle deck to my collection. This is the Crystal Universe deck. And I discovered this randomly online, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this seems like such a different type of crystal deck. I tend to be very picky with crystal decks. I only have one right now that I'm using, and what is that? Is that the Daily Inspiration Oracle, Crystal Oracle deck by Energy Muse, the owner of Energy Muse. So this one I think is really different and interesting because they are paintings. And I just love this aesthetic. I feel like it makes me look at the crystals in a different way. It's also got like the elemental symbols. I just think it's really beautiful. And like, we'll look through some of these cards. I really enjoyed working with this deck in April. Again, I think the paintings are gorgeous. We've got, again, some elemental symbols and astrological symbols with the cards. It just really makes me see the crystals in a different light. Like, it's not like a photograph of the crystal, which I feel like a lot of crystal decks have. It's either like a photograph of the crystal or like a computer generated, manipulated photo of the crystal. But the painting medium just makes me really appreciate the beauty of the crystals in a different way, and I love that. This cardstock too, it's like kind of like a silky, it's not quite matte and it's not glossy either, maybe like a satin finish, I'm not sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed using these. I would pull just one crystal as like what energy, you know, I need to channel for the day, and then I really enjoyed pulling like 2 tarot cards with that to kind of support the message. So with this deck in particular, I really use the one card as like the kind of like the meat of the message or the anchor point of the message, and then yeah, the tarot would support that. It also came with a really nice guidebook, and there's a couple spreads in here you could use, which I didn't try yet. And each card for each crystal, it gives you an internal journey, an external journey, and like it talks as if the crystal is talking to you. So like this one's like green aquamarine, and it's talking in like the first person. So it's like, my energy gently supports your aura and protects it as you express your limitlessness in the situation. So it's like the crystal's kind of talking to you, which I think is kind of cool. So yeah, this was really enjoyable to work with. I highly suggest this one if you're looking for a unique crystal deck, because I know I'm picky with crystal decks. I tend to not like a lot of them that I try, and this one's gonna stay for me. Really gorgeous, and yeah, I was really pleased with this, so I'm excited to continue working with this one as well. All right, so 2 more decks, and one of them was the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle. Now this one I'm still working with. I am filming this in May. I love the Seasons of the Witch series. Like, I have Samhain, and I even have the indie deck of Samhain when it very first came out, and I also have the Yule deck, and I love them so much. So with these decks, I like to make sure I work through every single card and I journal with it. So that's why I'm still working with this deck in May. Just, well, number one, because the energy is still relevant, but I like to just pull one card. I use that as my journal prompt, and I really go deep, and I feel like this deck always just nails the message for me. Like even when I look at it originally and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be relevant. And then I read the guidebook and I'm like, oh my gosh, spot on. So not only is it like super relevant with the guidebook, I love the artwork of Giada Rose. And, you know, I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some people don't like it, the art style. I adore her art style. I think it's got this like folk art, pagan, kind of haunting style that I love. I just love her art style. So that adds to my enjoyment of these decks. And this, I think most of my tarot practice is seasonal. I like to, that's why I started my Lumeria Star Tarot Edit, because I wanted to switch up my decks every month for whatever I felt like the seasonal energy was, or the monthly energy was. So the Seasons of the Witch whole series, and I'm so excited for the whole collection, you know, to come out. It perfectly encapsulates what I think spring energy is. Like this is a lot of just like new energy, new beginnings, rebirth, flowers, like sensuality, sexuality. We've got orgasm, we've got sex magic. It's just very pagan and earthy and sacral chakra and feminine. And I love this deck so much. I think it's such a wonderful deck to work with when you're trying to come out of like the hibernation of winter. It just makes you want to come alive. It makes you want to like get back out there in the world and just explore life and explore yourself again. So I love this. I have a few more cards to work with, and then I will be done with this deck. I'll probably still use the cards as like altar cards, because again, we're still technically in spring for quite a while. The guidebook too is wonderful. I highly suggest, if you don't tend to use guidebooks, definitely take a look at this one. I think there's a lot of great information. And I always say this, but there are tons of spreads in here and I never use them. And I think before I put this away for the season, I'm gonna have to use some of these because they're probably amazing. But love Seasons of the Witch. Beltane Oracle, I'm almost done completely working through it. This was definitely a journaling deck for me, and it's such a joy. And I am so excited to see what deck comes out next. I'd love for it to be Mabon, but I don't think it will be. So who knows? We'll see. But this was 100% win. Such a joy. Okay, and lastly, this wasn't in my tarot edit, but this was a deck I was kind of using on the side, and you guys probably haven't seen this on my my social media, like my Instagram, in a while. This is the Cute Cat Tarot, and this is a deck I have kind of just relegated to specifically inner child work. And it's amazing for inner child work, at least for me. These are the backs, and they have holographic edges. I think everything about this deck just speaks to my personal inner child. The art style, it's that very like cutesy, kawaii artwork. It kind of reminds me of like Hello Kitty. I was definitely like a Sanrio girl when I was younger. So the art style is just very comforting. It's very sweet. It's very soft and playful, and it just makes me want to like sit on my floor and like spread all my cards out like a little kid. And April for me was a big month doing inner child work. So I would, you know, it wasn't something I was doing every day, but if I felt called to in the evening, I might, you know, ask a question like what my inner child needs. And I'd pull like, you know, maybe 3 cards, and I have a specific journal for it. And I actually do all of my journaling in Crayola marker because, again, that adds to that inner child work of like, you know, holding the marker and writing in like bright, fun colors. Like that was really helpful too. And this deck was spot on with its messages. So it kind of got me through some like difficult emotions that were coming up and some difficult decisions I had to make. So this, look how cute this lover's card is with their wine and their sushi. Yeah, I love this deck, and I think this is a deck that's going to be specifically just for me, probably. and just inner child work. I think this is like just an inner child work deck for me. This is 100% a win. The messages never missed for me. So this was such a joy to work with, and I'm kind of putting inner child work away for right now. I feel like I'm in a good place with that. I'm actually, for the month of May, I think, I haven't started yet, or maybe June, maybe I need a little break. I think I'm going to move into inner teenage work. Maybe that's a June thing. So I'll put this deck away, and I'm just kind of exploring my collection right now, what decks would be really good for inner teenager work. But this one for inner child work was such a win. If you all are looking for a potential deck for inner child work and this artwork speaks to you, it definitely speaks to the, 6-year-old me, 7-year-old me. This was such a win, highly suggest. So yeah, these were the decks I worked with in April, and some of my reflections on those. So I'd love to hear what you all think of these. Let me know in the comments below if you have some of them, if you are interested in them. Let me know what you think of Pagan Otherworlds too. I feel like I'm one of the only people who kind of struggles with the tactile experience of this deck. Yeah, let me know what you think of these down below. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like it if you did, and comment down below what you think. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.